Greetings, DD Solar here. In this video I'm going to show you how I make tea using a single 100 watt solar panel which has been mounted on the side of my solar workshop directly on the wall. I will be using the power from the solar panel directly with no charge controller or battery involved. Here's a picture of the solar panel I recently installed on the wall of my solar workshop. I used 2 pieces of scrap lumber and some miscellaneous hardware and fasteners that I had laying around. This solar panel is aimed basically 90 degrees, which is not optimal, but it should produce anywhere from 20 to 50 watts depending on the conditions and depending on the season and the angle of the sun. So that makes it quite useful. There's no need to weed whack around a solar panel frame or do any work with wiring. It's all up off the ground and makes it a lot more convenient. So that's why I do it. Okay, first we have my tea maker. This is a 12 volt heated cup. It's stainless steel and I'm quite fond of it. It works pretty good. In one of my earlier videos I actually cooked and boiled noodles in this cup. It uses about 40 watts give or take, and it expects to receive about 12 volts on the input, which is right there. It's a 2.1 millimeter jack, and with about 40 watts going into it, it will eventually boil. It's not a really high boil, but it will boil. However, since this cup doesn't really want to boil water, it wants to get it pretty hot, but it doesn't always easily boil. That makes it very, very good for making herbal tea. When making herbal tea, it's best for the water to not boil. The water should be pretty hot, maybe 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This is called steeping. Steeping helps extract the beneficial compounds and medicines in an herbal tea without destroying them. I like to use a stainless steel tea steeper like this, although there are various devices you can buy like this. They should be stainless steel because stainless steel doesn't release anything into the tea that might contaminate it. Here I'm going to make one of my favorite teas, which is actually a mix of bay leaves right here. Bay leaves have a lot of interesting properties. You can go and study up on what it does. One of the treatments supposedly that bay leaves provide is treatment for panic and anxiety attacks, stress, and so forth. There's also a host of beneficial minerals and other compounds in the leaves. I find that bay leaf tea has virtually no flavor at all, even after steeping for a couple of hours. I also like to add these organic dried hibiscus flowers. These may also help with the treatment of panic and anxiety attacks. They also have iron in them. That's part of what gives them the red color. And the tea will turn red. In fact, it looks and tastes very much like Kool-Aid. It has a very fruity and interesting flavor. It does not require any sugar. You can actually drink the tea just as it is. If you put sugar in it, it tastes even better, but obviously adding a lot of sugar is not healthy. I recommend reading up on the medicinal nature of hibiscus and bay leaf. I'm not going to cover it all here in this video. With that said, let's get on to making the tea. Connected to the solar panel outside, there's this distribution block and a voltmeter. It's currently reading 17.8 volts. And I'm going to use this solar panel directly to make my tea. In theory, I could just plug this straight into my 12 volt cup. But if I do that, I'm definitely risking the cup. It could definitely burn out, and I don't want to risk that. In between the cup and the solar panel, I'm going to attach this DC-DC converter. This converter will ensure that the voltage fed into my electric cup will never exceed about 12 volts, and therefore it can never burn out. This looks a little bit complicated, but that's because it's a bench setup. It's simply a solar panel fed straight into a DC converter, which feeds straight into my electric cup or whatever I want to power. It's seriously simple, and of course it could be wired up a lot more neatly. In this case, it's on my workbench, so I'm experimenting, and that's why I have all the extra wires and so forth. It makes it look much more complicated than it actually is. So I'm going to add some distilled water to my cup to make my tea with. Now I'm going to plug in my DC-DC converter, which will turn on the cup. And the voltage on the solar panels dropped to 15 volts, as you can see, up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. To help the water heat up more quickly, I'm just going to put the lid on, let it sit there. That keeps the heat in. Now I'm going to prepare the tea ingredients. I usually do 1 bay leaf, and I just break it up like this. I can go ahead and place it inside the tea steeper. The hibiscus flower dried is very potent, so you don't need a lot of it. Usually I just take a small amount of it and I put it inside the tea steeper. In this case I'm probably using too much. 1 bag of this stuff will last many years if you are frugal in how you use it. If you want very strong tea, you can put the whole flower in. That's about how much I use, or I may use half as much. If you use half as much and steep it a good long while, it makes very good tea still. So you can use very little of the product and still get a decent tea. Alright, there's the tea so far. It's starting to turn red. And with this electric cup, if you keep the lid off, it's pretty much doesn't boil. If you keep the lid on, eventually it will boil. I've had this tea going for about 20 minutes, and as you can see, the color is pretty red. So that means there's quite a lot of compounds in the tea. I could steep this indefinitely. I usually do at least 20 or 30 minutes. I've done up to 2 hours. It's really up to you. Generally speaking, the longer you steep the tea, the stronger it is. But of course, there must be a point of diminishing returns. I can't exactly show it in this video, but the taste of this tea is fruity, almost like Kool-Aid or punch. If you add anything to it as a sweetener, it tastes even better, but it is not necessary. This is a very healthy tea with a lot of benefits. I recommend you read up on the benefits, and hopefully it will help somebody out. Well, I guess I'll go drink my tea now. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.